Hello everybody, I am Hoss, guitarist, one of the guitarists from Australian band Karnivool. We're here in the Bristol, UK, playing a show tonight. I thought I'd take a quick tour of my live setup. It's slowly being put together. Usually takes a while, I've got to be honest. Start with the board in front of me, which is just basically a whole bunch of Boss gear. I have a slightly different rig in Australia, well, quite a different rig in Australia, but this is the portable rig, which is quite nice because it's not overly heavy. GT6 workhorse, not a great signal to noise ratio on them, but they still have a funky batch of effects that are quite effective for me to be fit into one unit. A whole bunch of single boss effects, a DD2 for analog twisting of delays, which is awesome. Super octave, which does work really well. The old orange distortion, which I use for one song, and the Boss flanger, as well as one of our favourite toys, the Electro Harmonix, which is awesome, absolutely awesome. Underneath that is the GK Brain, which is basically just an old GK Brain. Again, I use a different one in Australia, but this one's just nice and portable, so that just runs the GK MIDI signal over to MIDI land. That's all just running a loop back to the JCM 900 behind me, which is what I generally use overseas. And that's basically the setup. That's basically all the effects that I use overseas. Nice and simple. It's all rack-mounted stuff we use in Australia, but this is effective for the enormous freight costs that sometimes hit us when we travel overseas.
A lot of people use Boss multi-effects units.
No, probably for good reason.
Yeah.
As I said, the signal to noise ratio is not amazing, and our sound guy hates me for using it. It's a workhorse. It's something we've always used in the past for speedy, creation of effects or whatever. Obviously, it's not what we use in Australia. We've got a lot more room for all our rack gear in Australia. But to get all the different effects that we use into one board that works well with an expression pedal, this we find is a great workhorse for that, the equivalency of the ones that we use in Australia is probably like 4 rack units and a shitload of MIDI control boards at the front, so not quite practical for us to bring that overseas, unfortunately. So yes, it's evil, but it gets the job done.
What do you use DS1 on? What song is that?
That's for Goliath. That's that first horribly hideous sound in Goliath is basically a patch in the GT6 for compression, and then the DD3, the DS1, and the flanger, basically all of them on full except the flanger, which runs just a slow wash over the sound. Just a great, horrible, dirty sound, which is probably about all you'll get out of a DS1, but it's effective for that.
And what do you use the memory man on? Is that frequently?
Yeah, that's quite a bit, man. A lot of that's just for general wash effects. Obviously being analog, again, the GT6, we've got 1,000 different presets. This one we sort of have to do manually, which is why I've got giant knobs I can control with my feet on there. Use it for a bunch of different stuff. Also use it for the effects in like Set Fire for the Hive, where we do the high, all the high band or the high movement delay effects. It just sounds so good. It's sort of the breath amongst the digital evilness, I think, sometimes. So basically, yeah, along with the guitar stuff that we do, I do a bunch of Mallet Cat or MIDI launching with the keyboard here and the Mallet Cat, which is an awesome instrument. It's got all piezo pickups inside it, which means you can launch samples, hold down and repressurize samples once you're on the board. Amazing signal ratio, very fast, awesome units. And it's mallet, which we have a lot of mallet sounds in our songs, be it keyboard or xylophone, glockenspiel, a bunch of different sounds that we use, which I replicate on the laptop, which then goes back to the MPC and the whole drumland back there, but we can show you that later. So basically, yeah, we just run live as a general engine, and then from live we've got crossovers through Omnisphere, which is an awesome soft synth, massive different sound bank and easily editable features for one of the sounds. And then I basically just window hop, so I use Reason as well as an engine inside live, and then from song to song I'll just 3-finger swipe to the next song. So Sky Machine, for example, will be a keyboard sound on the Mallet Cat and some synthetic sounds on the keyboard. And if I 3-finger swipe to the next song, which is Alpha, I've then got sample launches at the start of the song and different sounds that I can patch through, during the songs. And then basically I just keep swiping, which is really handy Mac interface. We used to use Pro Tools for a lot of the sequence stuff, which we're trying to get away from completely now. We don't have a lot of sequence stuff anymore, which is why we've got a different unit, the Akai Mpc behind our drummer, which does the bulk of the the core sampling stuff. This is more just basically to run some soft synths and some GK effects that we run through a whole bunch of different Reason plugins. The most horrible pedal I have is this piece of shit. Behringer 1010. There's a Roland unit that does a similar editability functions for MIDI, but I still haven't found a pedal that has as many editability functions for its price range as this one. And because they are pieces of shit, you can treat them like hell and throw them out and get new ones. But yes, if you listen very carefully, you'll hear circuitry rattling, which is, probably not ideal in the best of worlds, but we tend to live with it. So yeah, basically we use a whole bunch of different heads in Australia. Over here we've just got a hired heads, again, which can be a bit hit and miss. The JCM 900's sort of a stock standard Marshall sound, I guess. There's a very thin band range up around 75 to 90% where it actually sounds any good and everything else sounds horrible. So you tend to have to crank the hell out of them to get a decent sound out of them. But again, it's a bit of a workhorse. You can get a pretty good reliability out of them. I've got a modded 800 back in Australia that I'd prefer over this, but for getting a piece of equipment on the road that isn't yours and you've got to make the best with, this one tends to do it. And it's sort of the mix of the Marshall and the Drew runs the 5150 head, the PV head, so that's kind of a mix of what the Karnivool live guitar sound is, I think. This guy I've had for about 4 or 5 years. It's a 24 artist series. Yeah, it's nice, man. It's you get comfortable with them after a while. This one's had a few changed out parts on it, but between this and the blue one, which is another one of sort of my homely guitars, I call them, you just get very comfortable with them. It's hard to step away from into something else sometimes. We still tour a fair few guitars. Tour a couple of PRSs. We've got the Gibson Les Paul on the road with us. And another PRS as well as like a backup PRS. So between all of them, there's enough variance to get us through the gigs, despite the ridiculously weird songs we play.
What would you say is like the most intense song in terms of? In terms
of movement?
Yeah.
Probably, well, that's the thing, man. Off the new album, The Symmetry, I think most of that stuff, some of the longer songs on that are quite labour-intensive live. Sky Machine, there's a lot of jumping backwards and forwards. There's a point where I have to actually press two pedals, one over here and one over there at once, so I've learned how to do the splits, kind of. And songs like Alpha, again, another song which is fairly intensive, just because of the cross from sort of MIDI land back to a lot of the different guitar patch settings and stuff. So it's getting more complex as we keep writing, I think. Hopefully the next album will be an album of folk songs. So I can just play acoustic. Fingers crossed.
Hello everyone, I'm Drew from Karnivool here in Bristol for our second show in this lovely city. I'm going to run you through my rig. I guess it's a bit of a scaled down version of what I normally use back in Australia, but it gets the job done, so that's the main thing. So all right, let me show you what's going on down here. This is my pedal board. I've lost a couple of items recently. A loop pedal just died on me, so that's gone, and I also have a little third hand pedal, which is a mechanical pedal that I used to hook up to this guy, but I might have been a bit angry with it one night and broken off a knob. So I've just wired the whole thing through now, so none of these are working at the moment, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but as I said, it gets the job done. Okay, I've also got a Crybaby Wah, standard stuff really. This is one of my favourite fuzzers. This is a Godzilla made by a company, or I guess just a girl. She just works on her own, called Debbie Ever. She makes amazing pedals, especially these fuzzers. This is just, yeah, you can see, if you can see under the masking tape, but that's the Icon Has Cheeseburger cat and some people running away from a terror scene, frightened, and that's kind of what the pedal does. It's you've got your blister, tension, texture, volume. These are two different pedals in one, basically. You can get a blend between the two of them. and it's just very gnarly sound. Kind of sounds like the speakers are tearing.
You use that one on the album in the studio?
Yeah, I used that in We Are, in the song We Are in the middle, and it's also great for just these kind of, if you're just doing simple power chords, just big doomy kind of, thick, disturbing guitar sounds. This is my Electro Harmonix Hog, kind of like the Pog, except with more options. You've got many more. I think the Pog is only octave down original and octave up from memory, or something like that. But now on this one, you've got 2 octaves down, 1 octave down, your original, a fifth up, an octave, octave and a half, 2 octaves, 2 octaves and a third, 3 octaves and 4 octaves, and you can get these. Just use it as a simple harmonizer, just with some thick octave belows, and you can tweak. You've got your decay and attack envelopes, and this filter is very good, especially for picking the frequency of the octave, so you can get almost like a parked wah kind of sound, with an octave below, and then of course the resonance. And then you've got all these functions here, which is where all the really cool stuff happens. You can connect up an expression pedal, you've got an octave bend, a step bend, your volume, freeze and gliss, which is my favourite, where you can, that's another thing you can do in here, is you get this big organ kind of cathedral sort of sounds, and it just sticks, so you play a chord, and then you wind up the expression pedal, which I don't have with me on this tour, holds the chord, and then you go to a new chord, bring the pedal back down, and it does a glissando, as in all the, because it's a polyphonic harmonizer, every note individually fades into the new chord, so it warps into this. It's one of the most interesting functions I've ever seen on a pedal. That's the foot controller that comes with it, is in the presets, so you can, these mean nothing, and when you hit one of those, it just automatically goes to your last preset. And there's a new version of this now as well, the Hog 2, which I think they've made a much smaller version of this, so the real estate that takes up is kind of annoying. That's the only problem with this.
What songs would you say that's crucial to?
I use the Hog almost every song. Just stuff like the Refusal. It's especially good. These are my 2 sort of just thick octave below sounds. They're slightly different. And there's I'll come over here and I'll show you this one thing, which is really where it works well with. This is where the secret lies, my friends. Don't tell anyone. This is a Radial Jadx DI, and it's got an inbuilt speaker emulator in it. So Luke, our front of house guy, gets a blend between the DI'd signal and the mic on the cab. Now with this one, it works really well with the octave belows, because the 4x10 speaker cabinet can't produce those low frequencies, whereas this does. So every time I kick into my octave below, it's just like a huge kick in the guts every time that happens, thanks to this guy. And it's just got a different characteristic. It's very clean. You hear all the harmonics and all the chords, which sometimes you don't want to. That's the beauty of these cabinets, because it sounds rock and roll. It's just you get a big open chord, and it sounds like it's coming out of a Marshall, and sometimes you need that. But it's good to have the option.
Yeah.
While I'm over here, this is my trusty 5150 Mark I. I've always used it. It's always sort of been my go-to. In the studio, I use a lot of stuff, Bad Cats, what else, anything, there's Marshalls, there's twin reverbs, AC30s, high watts, a lot of boutique stuff, but this I always tend to go back to just because of the distortion sound. It's a one-trick pony, but its one trick is fantastic. The clean sound is a load of shit though, so I kind of have to make my way around that. Back to the pedal board, I got a bit distracted. So yeah, this is just my standard Boss DD20 delay. I got a few other delays back home. Actually got a buttload of effects back home that I don't bring with me, but the main reason I use this is just because of the modulate setting. It's got a really distinctive characteristic to that. A bit of a chorus wobble that slowly opens up as it goes, and it just creates an atmosphere that's kind of essential to a lot of Karnivool songs. Only 4 preset spots though, so that's the only bad thing about that pedal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, this is just a channel switcher for my 5150. That's the pitch black chord tuner. Simple, but it works. And then, of course, I've got my old trusty, if it's not broke, why fix it, GT3, and I run that through the effects loop, and I just use that for just some preset delays. Whereas this is all running through the front, and that is a kind of a crucial element for me as well, is that sometimes I need the delay in the effects loop, which is after the preamp. It's got a much cleaner sound, and then the delay and all your modulation effects especially become a bit more nasty when it's through the front, a bit more exaggerated, I guess. And that's pretty much it. That's the very simple European touring setup. Back home, it gets a bit wacky, but
what kind of racks do you use back home?
Well, I've got just the Axe effects, and there's a Furman power conditioner and stuff, which I forgot to bring. I wish I brought it because I'm having some trouble with with some noises and the power in some of the venues. And there's a rack tuner, but that's about it. Yeah, that's one thing I'm very keen on keeping it. The distortion from the tubes and just making the speakers work and pushing air. I love the Axe effects, but it's not really my thing. It comes down to a matter of taste. I think a band like Meshuggah make it work and make it sound amazing, but we're not Meshuggah, so I do like the sound of tubes and the sound of speakers. That's really my thing. I'm the only guy that's not on in-ears as well, so this side of the stage is usually very loud.
Why don't you go for in-ears?
I don't go for in-ears because I'm stupid. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about I tend to get stuck in my own head a little bit. I need to be a part of what's going on, and you can set up ambient mics and that sort of stuff, but I'm going to try to get on in-ears again. We've got to hook up through Sennheiser now, and I'm going to give it another shot because I don't want to lose my hearing. That's the main thing, and I just love being surrounded by, because there's hearing stuff and then there's feeling stuff as well. So I do like loud music and loud guitars. I'm a sucker for it, but yeah, we'll see. I don't want to lose my own hearing, so it's a benefit to get on in-ears if you can do that. Plus, you can also hear things too clearly sometimes. This is where our wonderful Cronulla guitar tech, Nick Loosely, gets angry with how many tuning changes he's got every night. So this is the guitars we brought with us. I've got 2 guitars, 2 PRSs. These are mine, the CE24, which is the bolt-on PRS. That's my road dog. I've had this since day dot. It's been loved and not so loved, but she fights back, and I love her. This is the same CE22, just 2 frets less. Same deal pretty much, it's just a slightly different sound, but I like them to sound as similar as I can. I've got the only difference as well as I've got a thicker string on that, so I tend to use this one for my lower tunings, like the A sharp stuff. These are Hoss's Pori Smiths, and this is another one that was kindly lent to us by our friends back at the Electric Factory who do Pori Smith back in Australia. That's the DTG. It's a beautiful guitar, but we're just kind of using this as a backup at the moment. Every song I pretty much have to change guitars because of the tunings we use, which I'll show you actually. We should have them somewhere. Here's the tuning sheet. So there's quite a lot going on there. So the main Karnivool tuning, I guess, well, the old Karnivool tuning was drop B, B, F sharp B, and then the first 3 strings are left in standard, which sounds like this. this. And that was all of the Themata record was written with that, and a couple of songs on Sound Awake, and then the only difference is a few songs like Umbra and Change, which just that G goes down to a fifth. So, and then Change, the E goes down to a D, so it's a B minor. Every song on the new record on Asymmetry is pretty much a different tuning, so there's some wacky ones like this, which is A sharp E, A sharp F, B, E, which is just twisted. I don't know what I was smoking when I came up with that, but it sounds great. So one of the big things to me is getting a strange little interval on the bottom, you know, so apart from your standard fourth or fifth, it might be a tritone or a flat six. That's a tritone in that regard. And then something like the refusal is BG, which is a flat six, and it's just these awkward, tense, discordant kind of tones that just by default you tend to find things that are, you know, just do this. So they're lots of fun. Alpha's got a similar kind of tuning. I do have one normal tuning. I think there's a drop D in there somewhere. There we go. How weird is that? DAD GBE. It's very strange. And there's stuff like All I Know, DAD FAE, which is like an open D minor 9, and we just chuck a capo fifth on for Deadman and Set Fire to the Hive's the same tuning. Yeah, there's many tunings. That's a fun one. A sharp, G sharp, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. That's very, you know, a lot of suspended notes on top, sort of floaty chords and nice melodies. Yeah, but as you can see, our guitar tech has his work cut out for him, so.
You're not tempted to bring more guitars out?
Nah, we like making Nick's life a bit tough. We love you, Nick. Chin up, princess. Yeah, as I said, like, it's very scaled down, you know, which I kind of like. I've really been enjoying.
Yeah.
Not having to think about stuff, and just, you know, it's one thing that I always try to do actually is simplify my rig, or, you know, whether it's arrangements or songwriting. I know they come across very complex, but I guess that's just the nature of who we are. Maybe we're just complicated people, but I'm enjoying the simple setup and just making do with what's in front of you, and it forces you to be creative on limited items, because sometimes when you have so much gear, you're tempted to overdo it, and you get lost and you forget that one pedal, or maybe two pedals, you can get a manner of sounds, you know, from just a couple of items. So it's been fun. But I do miss the axe effects for all the wacky filtered delays and you know, atmospheric kind of textural stuff, which I use it mainly for. But yeah, that's pretty much it.